So a couple of rather interesting things have taken place. Nigel Farage was on Good Morning Britain explaining in great depth why James Bond shouldn't be a female, but also the Brexit Party election pact. I believe it's 70 or 90 seats he wants, and he'll enter a pact with Boris Johnson, or free reign over 90 seats. I'll be honest with you, if Brexit is not delivered, I can see him winning that many seats at the very least, which should be quite interesting given enough time. Another thing of interest that has occurred is that Scottish judges, lol, have ruled that the Parliament suspension is unlawful. This is in Scotland's highest civil court, where a panel of 3 judges at the Court of Session found in favour of a cross-party group of politicians who were challenging the Prime Minister's move. This decision, though, does overturn an earlier ruling from the court that said last week that Boris Johnson broke, or had not broken, the law. But it does not. This ruling does not immediately affect the current suspension of Parliament. The reason for this is because no order has been given by the court to cancel the suspension, ahead of what is being considered a full hearing at a Supreme Court which starts next week on Tuesday. The court session of judges said that they were unanimous in the belief that the decision to suspend Parliament was motivated by Boris Johnson's improper purpose of stymieing Parliament, with them adding that the court will act accordingly to make an order declaring that the Prime Minister's advice to the Queen and the prorogation, which followed thereon, was unlawful and is thus null and of no effect. The full and final judgment of this will be released on Friday. MPs currently are not expected back until the 14th of October, a mere 16 days, I believe. 17 days, is it? 17 days, before we leave the EU. On that day, there will be a speech by the Queen outlining Boris Johnson's legislative plans, most of which won't get through Parliament anyway because he no longer holds a majority. That said, no one does. Not one party holds a majority, or could hold a majority even if they tried, unless of course the earlier mentioned pact comes into play. There were 75 pro-Remain MPs and peers behind this legal challenge, which is being headed by Joanne Cherry of the SNP, who has called for Parliament to be immediately reconvened following the ruling, which it doesn't have to until the Supreme Court's done its job, which means more and more time wasted. I will restate this. You don't want to waste time, but you all voted for a holiday. Just saying, you are all hypocrites. Originally, they appealed to the inner house of the Court of Session after their original challenge to the suspension was dismissed by Judge Lord Doherty last week. Lord Doherty, or Doherty, I don't know which pronunciation it is, had said that Boris had broken no law by proroguing Parliament, and that it was for MPs and the electorate to judge the Prime Minister's actions rather than the courts. One of the 3 judges, Lord Brodie, had said this was an egregious case of a clear failure to comply with generally accepted standards of behaviour of public authorities. It was to be inferred that the principal reasons for the prorogation were to prevent or impede Parliament holding the executive to account and legislating with regard to Brexit, and to allow the executive to pursue a policy of a no-deal Brexit without further parliamentary interference. Well, as he's already said he's not going to ask for an extension, it's hardly surprising everyone is shitting themselves. Except the public. They're busy working, you know. Apparently the very people you claim to represent don't care enough because they're too busy working. Lord Drummond-Young, also on this little committee, said the UK government had failed to show a valid reason for the prorogation and added that the circumstances showed that the purpose was to prevent such scrutiny, and the only inference that could be drawn was that the UK government wished to restrict Parliament. Number 10 have been contacted. They're disappointed. They're appealing to the Supreme Court, adding that the UK government needs to bring forward a strong domestic legislative agenda. Proroguing is legal and necessary in a way of delivering this. I've got to admit, this all reeks of a domestic drama TV show, doesn't it? I'm just waiting for the inevitable sex scene with Boris and Corbyn. A lot of the ways that each of the MPs in Parliament has approached this has been to shade someone based on either an out-of-context quote, which is what Corbyn does, or by attacking someone based on utterly pointless little factors like Corbyn does. For example, Jeremy Corbyn took a quote of Michael Gove's out of context where he said that he didn't want a no-deal Brexit. The context was, at the time, he was supporting Theresa May's deal. So he didn't want no deal because a deal was on the table. Did it matter? No. I've gotcha! Gotcha moment, win. No. Took 5 seconds to work that out, because I was paying attention, like everyone else that pays any attention. And then you take a huge leap and attack Boris for wanting to trade with the US. Like that's a bad thing. It's an amazing opportunity. What is wrong with you, Corbyn? It is Orange Man bad. It really is. He, in a speech to Parliament after the Prime Minister outright said he wouldn't ask for an extension, he said that the Prime Minister scapegoated migrants. Crime stats don't lie, Jeremy. You do, though.